In a small, modest village surrounded by nature, the early morning light was just beginning to filter through the dense green trees. The air was fresh and filled with the gentle sounds of birds chirping as the world slowly woke from its slumber. A young woman named Lyhoaica was starting her day quietly. While her child Tony still slept peacefully, she prepared herself for the simple but meaningful task ahead. She planned to cut bamboo early to craft a sturdy table for their humble home, an act of care and resourcefulness. The gentle rustling of leaves greeted her footsteps as she stepped outside, feeling the coolness of the morning dew beneath her bare feet. Lyhoaica's hands moved skillfully among the bamboo stalks, selecting each piece with purpose. She imagined how a finely made table would bring a sense of warmth and stability to their lives. Back inside, the small home remained still and peaceful. Tony was yet to rise. As she finished washing her hands after the bamboo cutting, a light knock came at the door. Lyhoaica opened to find a familiar face standing there. It was her nephew, a young man from the village. He greeted her with a warm smile and curiosity. He asked how he found her house, explaining that he had asked around until someone pointed him in the right direction. Without hesitation, she welcomed him in. Her nephew took a seat, and soon a serious conversation arose. He spoke on behalf of his mother, who was also Lyhoaica's sister-in-law. He conveyed concerns his mother had heard about Lyhoaica's relationship with his son, who was Lyhoaica's close companion and helper in her difficult times. The mother was uneasy, worried that such closeness might hinder her son's future prospects, especially marriage and family life. She insisted that Lyhoaica stay away from her son to avoid further gossip and complications. Lyhoaica listened silently, feeling the weight of the request, but stood with quiet dignity. She assured the nephew that nothing improper was happening. The young man only helped her as a friend during hardships. Despite the tension, she remained calm and immovable. Later in the day, her son returned home from work. He greeted her warmly, tired but attentive as always. He shared a conversation he had with his mother, urging him to distance himself from Lyhoaica to protect his reputation and future marriage prospects. His mother planned to go to her sister's house soon, as the sister was expecting to give birth. He worried about keeping the family's honor intact and not creating the wrong impressions. His tone was firm but conflicted, displaying the difficulty of balancing family loyalty and personal feelings. The young man advised his mother to rest and take care of her health, especially with the challenging times ahead. He prepared for his mother's departure, helping with household chores despite the rain making the floor slippery and wet. He carried Lyhoaica on his back to fetch sand to clean the floor, showing tenderness and care. Throughout the day, the ritual of making furniture continued, with a wooden table becoming the centerpiece of their modest home. The craftsmanship of the table reflected their effort to build stability amid life's uncertainties. Neighbors and relatives occasionally stopped by, observing the progress and offering small compliments or help. Rain fell heavily, creating a wet and humid atmosphere inside the house, but the determination to maintain daily life persevered. In moments of rest, Lyhoaica's nephew joined, offering companionship and a shared sense of responsibility. They worked together to gather materials, such as stone and sand, from nearby places to keep the home clean and orderly. Despite the hardships, moments of simple joy appeared in shared tasks and mutual support. The child's sleep provided a quiet background to the day's unfolding events, a symbol of hope and innocence. Later, Lyhoaica expressed concern for a nearby mother who was soon to give birth. She visited to offer help and food, embodying the resilience and care recurring in their community. Even with her own struggles, Lyhoaica never hesitated to lend support to those in need. As evening approached, weariness settled in, but also the quiet satisfaction of a day spent productively and compassionately. The rain continued to fall outside, yet inside, the warmth of human connection and perseverance held strong. A promise was made to continue supporting each other, despite the challenges life had placed before them. Lyhoaica prepared for the coming days, planning to balance care for her child, home, and community. She understood the delicate balance between personal strength and the importance of family ties, even when tested by doubts and misunderstandings. The tensions with relatives, the efforts to build a safe home, the compassion for others, all wove together in her life, shaping her story with quiet dignity and resilience. This was the first chapter of a life lived amid struggle and hope, a narrative painted with the colors of human kindness and the shadows of societal pressures. The bamboo table stood not only as a piece of furniture, but as a testament to perseverance and the desire for stability in a world that often seemed uncertain. The people around her, family, neighbors, strangers, each had their role, their judgments, their support, defining the delicate social fabric that bound them all. The young man's plea and his mother's warnings echoed the traditional values and concerns of the village, reflecting the complexity of human relationships. Yet in the heart of Lyhoaica, there was an unyielding strength, a readiness to face whatever came next with grace. Her story was just beginning, and this chapter closed on a note of quiet determination and the promise of more to come. In the quiet village, life was woven from simple threads stretched thin by hardship and shadowed by the pettiness of gossip. Lyhoaica often found herself caught in the relentless struggle of maintaining dignity in a world quick to judge. Her connection with the young man, her son's friend who helped her in times of difficulty, was a delicate lifeline. Yet this lifeline was not understood by the wider community or her extended family. The intrusion of her nephew, heralding disapproval from his mother, exposed the tension between kinship and social expectation. This unrest was more than a mere personal grievance. It reflected deeply rooted values about honor, reputation, and roles within the village. The nephew's mother, protective and traditional, feared that any relationship outside the accepted norms could sully her son's future. Her concerns were framed by a world where a young man's prospects of marriage and family could be jeopardized by whispering tongues. This fear manifested as a stark ultimatum to Lyhoaica to step away, to remove herself from that fragile social equation. Lyhoaica's response spoke volumes about her inner strength. She did not protest loudly nor reject the claims with anger. Instead, she stood quietly firm, confident in her truth and the integrity of her situation. She knew the precarious position she occupied, not just as a single mother, but as someone striving to carve out a safe place within a cautious community. Her acceptance of the nephew's message was not acquiescence, but a recognition of the power of social currents she could not easily oppose. Her son's return from work brought another layer of complexity. His loyalty pulled him in two directions, towards his mother, whom he cared for deeply, and towards the societal expectations imposed by his own mother. His words, though filled with concern, also carried the burden of familial duty. Protecting reputation was not a trivial phrase, but a guiding principle, expected to shape his every action. When he told Lyhoaica of his own mother's plans to visit their pregnant sister, a story of family solidarity and future promise intertwined with caution and control emerged. This scene unveiled the generational and gendered tensions at play. The mother's departure to support her sister's childbirth symbolized a traditional role of caretaking and sacrifice. Meanwhile, the young man's insistence that she find a wife and uphold the family's honor underscored the social pressure bearing down upon all who lived within this world. The rain pouring down outside mirrored the emotional storm inside their modest home, the wet floor slippery with challenges and obligations. Throughout the day, despite the turmoil, small acts of care persisted. The young man's willingness to carry Lyhoaica on his back to help shovel sand and clean the floor transcended words. These acts of physical labor were metaphors for shared burdens and quiet alliances. The treatment of each wooden plank, each grain of sand, each carefully crafted chair spoke of resilience. Amidst social constraints and personal trials, there was a persistent striving for normalcy and beauty. The crafting of the table emerged not only as a practical necessity, but as a symbol of hope. It was a tangible representation of making something lasting out of humble materials, a creation in the face of adversity. The neighbors stopping by talked in hushed but sometimes admiring tones, their curiosity mingled with judgment, their help driven by complex motives. The rain outside intensified the sense of vulnerability within, as if the elements themselves conspired to test their fortitude. In the still moments as Tony slept soundly, the deeper emotional landscape came into view. Lyhoaica's thoughts extended beyond her immediate troubles towards the wider web of community and kinship. She worried for the expectant mother nearby, a sister in humanity facing the same uncertain future. Her visits to bring food and care revealed the interconnectedness of their lives, woven through acts of kindness, even when circumstances were strained. The night closed with a fragile peace. The warmth inside contrasted the relentless rain, symbolizing the complex humanity at the heart of this tale. Lyhoaica's resolve to continue balancing her responsibilities reflected a quiet heroism. She was a mother, a woman, a member of a community governed by old rules and new challenges. Her story was not just one of survival, but also of connection, dignity, and the unspoken hope for understanding beyond gossip and fear. This narrative is layered and profound, illuminating the complexities faced by individuals caught between personal truth and collective judgment. It offers a perspective on resilience and grace under pressure, challenging simple notions of right and wrong. The story of Lyhoaica is emblematic of many untold lives, rich in detail and emotional depth, worthy of thoughtful exploration and empathy. The rain continued to fall relentlessly outside, each drop a steady drumbeat in the quiet village. Inside the humble home, the air was thick with the scent of wet earth and the faint aroma of cooking food. Lyhoaica sat quietly, her mind heavy with the weight of the day's events. The intrusion of her nephew's words echoed obstinately in her thoughts, pulling at threads of self-doubt and resilience. Her life had been a constant dance on the edge of social acceptance and personal survival. This struggle shaped her every action, every decision. Memories of past hardships flickered like lanterns in a dark room. Her journey as a single mother was marked with sacrifices unseen and unacknowledged by many. Each day brought new challenges that seemed to multiply silently. The judgment from neighbors, the whispers behind closed doors, and the cautious glances that followed her whenever she stepped outside formed an invisible barrier. She learned to walk softly, to speak less, to hide the fears beneath a calm exterior. Her son Tony's innocent laughter became the anchor that grounded her spirit. The conversation with her nephew was more than a reprimand. It was a beacon of societal pressure, manifesting through family bonds. The nephew's mother, a fierce guardian of tradition, represented a world where the roles of men and women were strictly defined and monitored. Her fears about her son's reputation were compounded by the reality of a rural village where gossip could travel fast and reputations could be ruined overnight. Lyhoaica understood this well. Her relationship with the young man who helped her was built on trust and necessity, not romance. Yet to others, it appeared as scandal. The boundary between assistance and impropriety blurred under external scrutiny. Her son's return brought a new layer of complexity. His voice bore the conflict of filial piety and personal loyalty. He urged Lyhoaica to step back, to protect not just his future, but the fragile peace within their family. His insistence on maintaining family honor reflected deeply ingrained cultural values. He struggled against his own feelings as his words sought to create distance, not out of lack of care, but out of societal obligation. The delicate balance between duty and affection weighed heavily upon him. The tangible acts of care, carrying Lyhoaica on his back through the muddy, rain-soaked yard, imbalance between harsh environmental conditions and gentle human touch, presented a poignant image of their relationship. Every movement was imbued with unspoken affection and the desire to protect. These moments contrasted sharply with the harsh words exchanged earlier, highlighting the intricate emotional landscape they navigated daily. The construction of the bamboo table was not just a practical task, but a metaphor for their lives. Each piece of bamboo, carefully chosen and fashioned, represented an attempt to create stability and order from uncertainty. Their modest home, filled with the sound of rain and human effort, was a sanctuary against the outside world's judgment. The neighbors who dropped by brought unspoken questions and veiled judgments, a reminder of the ever-watching eyes and ears. Yet some offered unsolicited help, a glimpse of community kindness amidst suspicion. The act of helping the expectant mother nearby underscored Lyhoaica's enduring compassion. Despite her own burdens, she extended herself toward others in need, embodying a strength shaped by adversity. Her role in the community was complex, both looked down upon and necessary. The duality of her position reflected broader societal contradictions, where vulnerability and strength coexisted uneasily. The night deepened. The rain became a steady backdrop to the quiet determination in Lyhoaica's heart. The social constraints, the familial battles, and the harsh realities of rural life did not define the totality of her existence. Beneath it all was a woman, shaped by love and persistence. Her story was a portrait of endurance, where quiet moments of joy and connection illuminated the shadowed spaces. She maneuvered through the judgments with quiet ingenuity, crafting a life for her child defined by hope. The psychological depth of these moments revealed the tensions between individual identity and collective expectations. Lyhoaica's internal world was a landscape shaped by conflicting emotions: pride and pain, love and loneliness, strength and vulnerability. These did not exist in isolation, but interacted in a dynamic, ever-changing dance. Her personal journey demonstrated the universal human struggle to maintain selfhood amid external pressures. Her son's conflicted feelings mirrored the wider theme of family loyalty versus societal pressure. His efforts to balance these forces highlighted the complexity of relationships shaped by traditional values. The burden of expectations could fracture bonds even as love endeavored to hold them intact. This tension was a living force within their home, giving rise to both tenderness and distance. The presence of the nephew and his mother symbolized the relentless watchfulness of society. Their attempts to police behavior were not just about morality, but about maintaining order. These forces exerted pressure that shaped and constrained individual choices, often forcing painful compromises. Lyhoaica's situation was an archetype of many women trapped in similar circumstances, their lives scrutinized and judged by a rigid social order. The symbolic crafting of the table captured the essence of hope and creativity amid limitation. This act of building, shaping something useful and lasting from humble materials, represented a claim to existence and dignity. It was a metaphor for the human desire to create meaning and stability, even when the world offered little certainty. The cycles of rain, labor, and quiet reflection painted a vivid picture of rural life and its challenges. Each element, the weather, the physical tasks, the emotional interactions, was woven into a tapestry that revealed the interconnectedness of environment and human experience. The sensory details, the smell of wet earth, the texture of bamboo, the sound of rain, brought the story to life, immersing the reader in both setting and psyche. Lyhoaica's visits to others in the community expanded the scope of the narrative beyond her immediate family. These interactions showed the blurred boundaries between public and private life in a small village where everyone's stories were intertwined. The support exchanged was fragile, balanced precariously against suspicion and survival. The narrative closed not with resolution, but with ongoing tension and hope. It was a story that acknowledged hardship without surrendering to despair. The characters embodied complexity, neither heroes nor villains, but human beings navigating difficult circumstances with courage and dignity. Their journeys offered insight into broader themes of social structure, gender roles, family loyalty, and individual resilience. This final section of the story deepened the psychological portrait, revealing the interior lives behind outward actions. It illuminated the emotional texture of a life often rendered invisible by society's glance. The detailed exploration of character motivations, conflicts, and small moments of tenderness created a rich, enduring narrative. The conclusion left the reader with a sense of continuity, the knowledge that life's challenges were ongoing, but not without meaning. It celebrated the quiet strength found in daily survival, the subtle ways people nurture one another, and the enduring human capacity to hope and love despite adversity. This was Lyhoaica's world, complex and compelling, filled with struggle and grace in equal measure.